give it a second as the audience builds, but we are recording, so.
We don't know how to act. You're not here to.
I'm not here to show a question here.
That's right. Yeah, you got to do all.
I'll have to move my fingers
That's
just
right.
to feel normal.
But please jump in and whatever rocks you just.
Oh, believe me, I'm not shy at all.
Good. Hey, I like that. Hey, I'm all for the non-shy plan.
Pretty much what you see with me online is about what you'll see on here too.
Love it. Love it. Couldn't be better. Well, I promise you, whatever you see online, this is what you're going to see. This is who we are.
Okay, we are out streaming live, and those that watch the video afterwards, that's what we do, is we just wait a second to start building a little bit of an audience. But Roger, we got Katie already joined. Hello, Katie.
Hey, Katie.
Katie just became my friend on Facebook.
There we go. That's how it works. It's all a connection.
She says, good morning. We still need to get Facebook to figure out how we can get people to join in via
The live sound feed.
Well, yeah, the face stuff. Roger.
The FaceTime.
FaceTime.
Yeah, okay.
What's
interesting?
Something's different today. I can't figure it out.
Yeah.
One, two,
Yeah, we got extra.
I feel like I'm in the big chair.
Yeah, that's it. You're the big man in the big chair. I think that's how it works.
Yeah, we got Kim Hamilton joining us today. Kim, for those that watch, will notice that he tries to join us as much as he can on a weekly basis and makes a great contribution through the texting and.
Yeah, thanks for bailing me out after locking me up last week. That was great.
Yeah. Okay. And
I'm teasing.
You're welcome.
That's a segue out of the boy.
No,
Thank you for bailing me out.
I forgot it.
Here in South Carolina, that's not a good thing.
No, that's just it.
But I trusted you.
Oh, man. That fits right into what we're talking about, right there.
Yeah, that was exactly. We're going to be talking about maintaining and building trust, and part of Kim's release was that I have to be responsible for his actions.
Oh, man, you're on the line now, buddy.
So now I guess he's got to come with me where I go.
I'm worthy.
And we're going to be talking about building and maintaining trust today. What does that look like? Where do we have challenges in the building of trust? Where do we have challenges to maintain trust? What happens when trust is broken? Can trust be rebuilt? Trust meaning what, and what type of relationships? Because again, a lot of times we think probably first in relationships dealing with boyfriend and girlfriends, husband and wives, but we have to have trust in our work environment. We have to have trust with our friends. We have to have trust in the places of worship we go. We have to have trust with our children. So basically, all relationship is built upon trust, and we see the challenges in relationship. Many times we'll be driven to finding out that somewhere in that relationship, trust has been broken, but hasn't been restored.
Yeah, and what's amazing about trust is when we're young, small issue. I do not hear young people focusing on trust. I mean, they'll talk about trust and they'll talk about the importance of trust, but on a scale of 1 to 10, it's about a 2. But every year people get older. Once you get people in their 60s, man, this moves to a 10. And boy, that is a big factor in their relationships. You know, that people that they were close to when they were young aren't in their lives anymore. And you say, well, wait a minute, what about this person? What about this person you went to school with? And they say, well, some things came up and I put trust in them and they let me down. And so I learned that it was best for me to let them go. And so you see that shift of the 2 from 1 to 10 to the 10 from 1 to 10 and how that is worked out. And that there are some people that never, and this is really sad, is there are some people who never really get trust. They're always what I would call the victims of trust.
Do you think they've been betrayed in the past and they just don't want to reveal that again and get hurt again?
Right, yeah, I think that they have been hurt in the past and don't know how to deal with it. And so their number one go-to response is denial. I'm just going to deny, no, it's all good. Kind of I'm going to click my heels together like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, and everything's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And and one of the things I see is that used people have a tendency to be used as time goes on.
Well, you said, you talked about being like 60, and you get to been hurt or had a broken trust 2.4 times, but you're very reluctant. Or do you think there's something we could quantitatively put
I think it is kind of a mathematical equation of progression.
Okay.
I think that people who are very, very young have not had to fight the fight, who have not had to get on the field and win a game and have a winning season. But I see people in their 60s have played many games, and they've had to go up against a lot of opponents. And in that kind of equation we're talking about, I see people who look at it and say, if I keep this relationship, my chances of winning go way down. My chances of advancing financially, spiritually, emotionally, are going to be thwarted. And so they then look to say, wait a minute, I need to let this go as a progression issue, as a continuum of success issue. And so there's where there's a big, I believe, change.
So we should all have an expectation that we're going to have issues with trust, with relationships. And what I mean by that is we're going to have the wounds and we're going to have the good. And there is a payoff there. When we trust, that it really means one or two things going to happen. Either there's going to be positive or negative from it. Unfortunately, the negative outweighs the positive, being that I'm going to trust you to drive my car because you need a car today, and that you'll bring it back to me in a good shape. You bring it back in good shape, we've established a trusting relationship and nothing major impact. But if you bring it back destroyed, a trust issue could be established, but the negative side is much more consequential, where, there's not going to be that opportunity to trust again in loaning stuff out.
Well, I see the analogy being more of like a relay race. Okay, you've got a baton, and you're running around the track. Okay, and so you're trusting that if I'm leg one and I move to leg two, that there is going to be a adequate handoff. Okay, and that my financial history, my emotional history, is going to be tied into the handoff, not in the running of the race. I mean, I think some people run it faster than others, but the real key of winning the race is the handoff. And I think as time goes on, age-wise, you realize some people are really good at handoffs, and some people not so good. And again, I see people that have a bad handoff partner and settle for that, have a history of bad handoff partners.
Well, and the thing too with trust is, I guess we have to think about what it is that gets broken. A lot of times we think, well, you broke the trust, and we have the emotional thing that comes out of that, and we think, well, I'm hurt emotionally, but we don't recognize that the security that we, in a basic relationship, especially for a woman, she's looking for security, and that has been broken.
Right, yes.
And that's the key component there that somehow needs to be renewed.
Well, one of the things that I see a big change in is instruction on how to run the race and how to hand off at the top.
Yeah.
I think women have a better understanding of the race when they're born. And as they're raised, they are about relationships. So that they already know how to run the race. They already know how to do the handoff pretty well. And what I've noticed is guys stink. They're not that good. And so here I'm going along and I'm like 15 to 20, right in that range. And I've been running with women or I've been running with only men. Everything's fine. But all of a sudden, I put a woman on my team, or a woman puts me on her team. And boy, then there's fireworks. Why didn't you? Why didn't you understand me? And there's a real lock. And I think the trusting, successful marriages are made from people who are willing to say, I need to learn how to do this better. I need to be better at the handoff. And I think when women see men who are invested in bettering the handoff, so to speak, is the metaphor, that builds trust, that builds strength in the relationships, that builds the commitment, and people are happier. I very seldom see marriages where people have good handoffs and then say, I don't want to be in this marriage.
Well, what about these guys? I'm probably broken on you there.
We're let you talk here.
Yeah. Rick's ready. You've done okay. Go right in there.
You know, where you get these guys that come in and maybe they've had abandonment issues, you know, early in life, and so they really struggle giving that trust.
Right.
And so, you know, they finally find the mate that they want to, you know, have that with. And then the first little thing, I mean, it doesn't have to be a major incident, but it just feeds that prior understanding of, you know, I can't trust anybody. Do you see that? I mean, is that something that, how do people overcome that?
That's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And again, I want to make sure we understand, trust, while we brought it into the realm of either, you know, marital or dating relationships, we've got to go back to the idea that we put it in the broader context of relationships in general, because I don't think that's really that big of a difference between men and women, gender specificness regarding trust, because men and women are hurt the same, and men and women can also build trust the same. But going back to that, we do have that self-fulfilling prophecy of, if you are that individual, now going back to that specific issue where you have had trust broken in the past, and whether that relationship did not make it and you end up with somebody new, and then the same thing starts happening where you might build a case against somebody when there's no case to be built. But guess what? You're always going to be struggling with that. So you can have that self-fulfilling prophecy that I know they can't be trusted, and then you can make it happen where something that is not even a trust breaker, but you can make it into a trust breaker. You know, same thing when we talk about relationships and just, I know, you know, if you go into a new organization, I just know people aren't going to like me. They're not going to have anything to do with me. So they hold themselves back. They don't interact. They don't engage. And they say, guess what? People don't, I was right, people don't like me. When the other person who has a self-fulfilling prophecy is saying, you know, I'm going to do well here, and I'm going to make it successful, and I'm going to do what's necessary, and do engage, their self-fulfilling prophecy is made also, hey, these are really nice people. So it's the same organization. Same thing with trust. You know, a lot of times I do think we do have that self-fulfilling prophecy as to whether or not someone's going to be trustful or not.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think the thing is, it's figuring out a way to help that person get through that. And if it's a spouse, you know, where they can kind of, you know, reassure and build those things. And
well, and whoever in the relationship, you have to communicate, and they have to know, you know, so they can catch you. And when I say catch you, help you work through that. If you had been a victim of trust being broken, and we'll go back to the marital side again, whether it be an affair or whatever.
That seems to go easy, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, and then you end up in divorce and remarry somebody else, and you know you're with somebody completely trustworthy, but they're supposed to be home at 6 o'clock, and they get stuck in the office at 7:30. normally what's going to happen to the one who had the trust issue is they're not going to be thinking, oh, I hate it for her that she's having to work late tonight, or maybe I need to get dinner ready for her and pretty good. It's the thought process going through, I wonder who she's with. Let me call the office, and guess what? She might not answer because she's in someone else's office legitimate, or call a cell phone, or she's in a late meeting, can't take it. Then they keep building up in their heads. I know she's not there, so she's somewhere. Right? And I've had people who have been stopped because of that process right there, where the spouse who had the trust issues would then drive down to the office or drive where they think they're going to be, and actually sometimes embarrass the spouse.
You know, a key word in this that I think is very powerful is transparency. I think that people, whether it be married, whether it be at work or whatever, who are transparent about what they do, how they do it. You know, one of the simple things is, does whoever you're looking to trust you know your password? And when they say no, man, I'm telling you straight up, the flare goes up. No, they don't need to know my password. They don't need to know what's going on. And they don't really have a solid basis for that. And to me, that's a handoff issue right there. It's like, you're never going to win a race with that attitude. And so one of the things I think that's powerful in marriages, powerful in jobs, powerful in therapy, is the education of transparency. When people are willing to admit they aren't transparent, they're willing to say, I'm willing to do what it takes to be transparent, and they're willing to listen to the opposing person tell them what their idea of, not what the person who's having a problem, but the person they're having a problem with tells them what transparency is. And they're willing to learn that. I have seen what I would consider miracles happen of people who, who weren't transparent, who were very doubtful, who were very paranoid about anything.
Well, especially when we open up ourselves to judgment and to that we free ourselves.
Without a doubt. And you free yourself to love.
Right.
And there's where people, they don't realize it is a leap of faith. It is not easy. It's one thing to say.
Vulnerability, and that's the whole key. If you aren't willing to be vulnerable, you're not willing to build or be trustful. It's when you close yourself up and are afraid of that vulnerability that you'll always have an issue with trust with individuals and people. And because again, we know that trust, you got the black and white side of it. We know that you don't go out there with the expectation you trust everybody, but you don't go with the expectation you don't trust anybody. And so let's talk a little bit about that. How do you build trust? What are the ingredients that are necessary to
Number one ingredient, time. I find people, give me trust now. I want to be trustworthy, and I want other people to be trustworthy now.
Let me shine your shoes so I can earn your trust.
Yeah, it's like, wow. I mean, they are incredibly impatient when it comes to the trust issue. And that is a from the start losing plan right there.
So consistency, you're saying, has to be part of the building of trust.
I think holding your breath. I think it takes us an element of wait and see, watch, look, give it time, give it time to mature and work itself out. And when people do that, they're not on a rush, they're not pressuring. I think you get a truer reading. I think also not only a truer reading, but a consistent reading. That this person, if unpressured, makes a trustworthy exchange, wow, then the chances of them continuing throughout relationships, throughout situations, to still make that decision, very high. But when you're just on them, and they're under the gun, It's just like somebody holding you hostage with a gun. You're going to say anything. I mean, whatever you want to hear, dear, I'm willing to tell you. And people don't realize that they have threatened people into saying things in a trust exchange that the person would have never said. If I would have not been under the gun, I've never gone there. But boy, I tell you, talk about a lot of bad marriages. I have heard in that context of I was under pressure. I felt like that we started dating, and before I knew it, I was under the gun, and they wanted me to say something, and so I said it. Well, and did you believe it? Well, no, I didn't believe it, but the pressure was so intense.
Well, and then it kind of gets into the thing with the boundaries. Like you guys were talking last week, where we set the boundaries, and as soon as you said it, one of them will go, "Well, you don't trust me."
Well, emotionally yank you, man. You gotta love that love.
And so, if I have to set a boundary, we've got a conundrum here.
Right, and my biggest problem with that is the lack of education. That we teach people to initially set a boundary, but we do not teach them how to keep a boundary, which is another different process. And as all as therapists understand, it never happens if you don't make it. But once you make it, we got to help you keep it. And to think that if I set a boundary with my family, with my friends, with my job, that people aren't going to push on it is an illusion.
That's not realistic.
No. But people thinking, I'll set a boundary and everybody will respect it. Yeah, checks in the mail. No, that's not happening. They're going to jack you up.
Or they're going to make you feel so guilty that you set that boundary that, oh, I can't believe you don't trust me.
Right.
You're doing this.
And then that's what people
they don't make you feel guilty. You allow them.
Oh, yeah. Good therapist there. Yeah, you allow.
I'll leave my check on the
That's right. Like, you know what that is. I hate when people say that. But it's true. It's true. Sometimes the truth hurts. That's what's hard. But that's part of it. You can see that trust is also a dance, and finding someone who's willing to learn the dance with you and the steps with you makes all the difference in the world.
Well, you said something in the very beginning, and I just for some reason just came to my head, where you were talking about as we get older, our trust quotient changes.
It does, yeah. I've noticed that.
We get to that thing where people call elderly folks now and they scam them, and these people are just like, oh, I'm going to win $1 million. Okay, I trust you. I'll give you my social security number. I'll give you everything. Why have we not learned after being burned so many times? Maybe it's not a good thing to trust everybody.
Well, what you're really talking about there is a group of people who've learned an avenue. It's like, now I'm going to the analogy of baseball, okay? Mm-hmm. If I'm a pitcher and I learn that the batters on the other team will swing at every ball I pitch. I'm pitching like nobody's business. That's what these people have learned, okay? I've learned that the curveball is the ball that most people miss. And so what I do is I start pitching the curveball, and over time, I realize the better I get, the more money I make. I'm not thinking I'm harming people. I'm thinking about the skill of throwing the pitch. And so there's where I believe it's happened to old people and given people a lot of money. They found a particular way of saying it, of presenting it, that the older people have not been taught. They've not had to deal with it in marriage and friendship and jobs because nobody made money off of it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be stereotypical about it, but I do think culturally we do see there is thing with the generations. I mean, we're coming to the end of the greatest generation, and that's the group we're talking about right now. But they grew up in a culture where they didn't know their neighbors, they didn't know their townspeople, they didn't know the people in church, they didn't know their family, and trust, I think, was just part of the natural part of culture. That we grew up in a culture where we trusted our buddies, but we didn't trust anybody over 30. And so,
You can tell Rick's a hippie.
Yeah.
He's an old hippie's what he is, dude. So I'm gonna tell you straight up that trust people over 30. I didn't roll with that group, man. I trusted everybody, man. But if you were an old hippie, that was your.
I wasn't that joke, but it was fine.
And now we have, I think, a generation that is learning not to trust at all because of what's the technology and what the culture is doing. In fact, Cheryl and I were at a community watch meeting last night, and just, knowing all that's going on, actually for your own safety nowadays, it's best not to trust. But there's actually a book that's been written, I can't think of the author right now, but he talks about how to take care of yourself and self-defense, and he I guess I can think of the name of it. But anyway, he did security for these groups out in Iraq and so forth. But he says really the best way to protect yourself is your gut feeling. If you're walking down the street at night and it's dark and someone is approaching you and you just don't feel right about it, then don't say, I don't want to offend anybody, I'm going to stay here. Walk across the other side of the street, or walk the other way, or get your cell phone out. But he says, I can teach you all these techniques, but if you can start where you go with your gut. I think trust is the same way. We have to have that gut feeling that either this person is, or this relationship is good or bad. And going back to what you were saying, Roger, is instead of feeling under the gun, if it doesn't feel right, then more than likely you're right, that there's something not in there if you feel there's a trust issue.
But we all run into people that have no sense of discernment.
Right.
They could walk up to a guy with a gun and, that's getting ready to rob him, and they go, oh, that's a beautiful shirt you got. They don't see that. They just don't have that sight.
Well, the one thing we want to make clear in this show is we don't want to make everybody a nail
and have a hammer.
And let me teach you how to be a hammer. I mean, that's the one thing we do not want to do here. What we want to do is go back to that relay metaphor of you need to have somebody that you can trust in the handoff. Whether that handoff is for marriage, whether that handoff is for friendship, whether that handoff is for work, you want a smooth exchange. There's no such thing as a perfect exchange, but a smooth exchange. But what we've gone to, I think, like Rick's talking about, is an incredible shift of the greatest generation versus the generation we have now. And what just drives me crazy is it's black and white. They're not this shade of gray and a darker shade of gray. That would be within approachability. But boy, when the oldest generation is black and the newest generation is white, wow. There is just an openness for things to go wrong because of those dynamics.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I think we have to think about here. We have to think about what is going to, as practicing what we preach, is how do we exchange better? Not let us look at everybody and make them a name. Oh, your spouse, they're a name. Oh, your boss, they're a name. Well, there are some people that live like that. And I'm like, ooh, they approach you and they're the hammer. And I'm like, wow, ooh, wee.
We kind of alluded to technology, changing things, and how that creates another trust option. If I, see you over there texting, and all of a sudden, if I'm your wife, I'm not your wife.
Thanks for clearing that up.
and all of a sudden, you say, oh, I got to go, and you're gone for 4 hours, and I have no idea where you're gone, and it's 10 o'clock, and normally you're in bed at 10 o'clock. I'm going to get suspicious. And
Well, that's a poor handoff.
right.
I love that example because that really is what happens, and it's because there are different handoff techniques, and so many couples don't learn them. They believe if I fall in love with you and I say I do, we're automatically
We're this.
yes, and we're going to hand off beautifully. Goodness gracious.
Where's the ball?
I mean, we have really lost it. You know, no, it's just like we got a football season coming up, and the old football team, they got it. And however they did, it's gone. And whatever the team was about is gone. This is a new team, new season, and so we've got to get in there and hit it as hard as we hit it last year. I think that's a hard thing for a lot of marriages, is that just like being a coach of a football team, you got to get it up every year with a new team. You got to do that in a marriage. Every year, you got to get it up. And I see people, they get it up for about 2 years. And then they say, I'm tired. And then, wow, what happened to my marriage? How come this woman I love that old phrase, I told you I loved you when I met you. If things change, I'll let you know. And the next thing you know, they're sitting in divorce court.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happens. You know, you can't ride off the history of whatever you've done. You know, you're only as good, I think, in the element of trust and handoff with in any situation with what have you done for me lately. You know, that's what you have to look at. And if you've done good, and you continue to do good, I think that there are incredible rewards. That's the one thing as I've gotten older, that people that were good and continue to be good, I've not seen one of them not do well. They've all done well.
The 800-pound gorilla in the room, when you took a look at trust, is the marital, discord or the relationship.
Oh, yeah.
Broken. That's the one that, people, when you bring up that topic, that comes in. We've all heard it in our offices, and we see it all the time. And I was out there sitting there thinking, okay, well, they're kind of hurting that now. You guys want to broke into that and kind of how do they heal from that? How do you heal from that?
I think now I'm going to go.
I know we're going to go back to the handoff.
And we're going back to the new team.
Okay.
You know, it's football,
Uh-huh.
and you're only as good as your last game. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you lost, does this mean you're a loser and your team's losing?
But the spouses do, the one that's been deceived.
And they feel this way, and they didn't want to define the marriage by the last game.
It's a loss.
Yes, it was a loss. We're losers. I'm out of here.
Trade me.
Yes, and I think a lot of people are very momentarily focused in marriage, in the moment, the last game. And when you move them to the season, it is a great team that can lose a game. The coach comes in and says, it's a game. We messed up, but it's not our season.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not doing this next game. And they go out, and I'm thinking of Clemson here, where their last season, they lost this game by a field goal or something, and they played terrible that game. I mean, they really, in essence, didn't show up. And that reminded me of many people's marriages.
Mm-hmm.
They lose a game because they didn't show up. But the next game, I guarantee you, those boys showed up. And they were kicking hiney and taking names. And that's how they won the game. And that's then how they won the championship.
Is it the defended spouse or the offended spouse? She just can't, or I say she.
Yeah, that's
Sorry, ladies, I didn't mean that.
Oh, man, I'm backing up from this conversation now.
The offended spouse,
Right.
struggles with those emotions and getting over that, or is there a thing that can start that gives them that, you get to the game, you know what you got to do. What is it that they find something there?
Now I'm just, again, I said I'm in that mood, but as a football team, the next game they're going to do better. And what I've heard, I've not been on that team, but I've heard that if they want to know they're going to do good on the team, they watch the practice. How did you practice? If you practice like a winner, the chances of you winning very high. But if you're walking with your head down, you got a loser attitude, and especially the phrase, whether this is in football, whether this is in marriage, I don't care. That is a nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
No.
But then going back to answering your question,
I'm avoiding your question.
that makes sense. But it is somewhat of a strange concept. But to build and regain trust, the other person in the relationship has to be trustworthy. Now, let's go back to what creates trustworthiness. And, one is, again, we talk about consistency. We talk about sincerity. We're talking about what does the offended spouse need in order to build trust? And is the offending spouse willing to do what the offended spouse needs? We see it. Anything from putting trackers on the phone or using the trackers that are there to when they travel, actually doing FaceTime, showing they're in their hotel room.
Mm-hmm.
And these are things that will start rebuilding trust is ask the offended spouse, what do they need? And then start.
I think that's a great point because it does come back to what they need and helping the offended spouse determine what she needs. I did it again. I'm sorry.
Well, I want to tell you the sign of a good therapist. The sign of a good therapist is their ability to get to what you're talking about. There are so many therapists that go out there and are good, really good, at shooting the bull, at conversation and charging for conversation. But there is no call to action. There is not going to the point of the dispute, of actually coming to what will solve it.
A counselor and not a therapist.
Yeah, yes. Big difference. And I think there's what we certainly want to encourage people to be good consumers. I tell people that all the time. When it comes to buying your clothes, you just don't go off and buy something. First, you walk in the store, get something off the rack, go home. Don't look at the size, doesn't care. I'm buying. That isn't how you buy. You go and you shop and you discern what is going to be the right color, the right fabric, the right fit. Same way with counseling.
Mm-hmm.
You shop, you get in with people, and you find someone who can get to that point that Rick was talking about, that can draw out, because nothing makes people crazy than someone who shoots the bull with them and then says some formula, do this, and you're going to have trust in your marriage. And it doesn't apply at all to their marriage. I'm like, wow, boy, that was a waste of time, money, and energy. It's that person who's willing to listen and discern and say, and then that brings me back to the story of the guy who there was a problem in the shipyard and they couldn't figure it out. And so they called this expert and he walked in and they said, we'll give you $2,200 if you'll fix this. And so the guy pulls out a hammer, hits the equipment one time and it runs. And so he sends them a bill for $2,200. They said, $2,200, all you did was hit it with a hammer. And he said, oh, okay. For hitting it with a hammer, that was $200. For knowing where to hit it, that's $2,000. There's the therapist. There's the right person. It's not just knowing what to hit, it's knowing how to hit. And there's the trust issue in relationships, whether it's man or woman, whether, again, it's marriage or dating or whatever. It's being able to direct people in the right place to hit the hammer.
Yeah.
That's a real skill.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I do one thing that's contra to all these webinars you see about gaining more clients. What it is I let the clients know also that this is a relationship that they have to feel I'm a person of trust and that I've created an environment for safety and security for them. So I never ask a first-time client to schedule a second appointment. And if it's a couple, I'll do the same thing. I'll ask them to go, leave, think about what happened today. And if this is the place you think you could be and I'm the person for you, then we'll get you back on the calendar. Then we start setting up the recurring appointments. But it does two things. First of all, it gives that opportunity because you're not going to connect with everybody that walks in the door because it is a relationship. And secondly, there are some people that are just not motivated. They're there because their wife says you got to go get yourself fixed, your husband says you got to get yourself fixed, your mom says you got to get yourself fixed, but they don't have the motivation. So if they don't call a second time, but they had a good session, again, that's weeding out those that truly are not motivated to do the work and showing them where to hit the hammer.
Right.
Well, and the thing too, we all do the same thing. The initial session is hearing the story, being empathetic and towards their dilemma, and then making a connection of trust, a reasonable amount of trust that they feel, whether they go home and do that or do it in the office, that they are going to come back and trust you to tell you the rest of the story.
Well, now we're back. I love this is my day on analogy, but I think it comes back to saying to them, go examine the handoff.
Yeah.
Okay? You came in here, you were running cruddy. You were never winning a race. Got it. And I've helped you with a new handoff. And that's also another real thing. A great coach is not a great coach to everything. Mm-hmm. Some people say, man, that person's a jerk. I don't like him. And all the other person say, man, they're a god, man. Everything they say is awesome. Well, it's about how you touch people. And so when, like Rick says, I don't say, come on back, and you just accept that what I said works. When I never got how to do the handoff. No, go examine how I've directed you to handoff. Mm-hmm. If then it made your racing better, you make a decision. And if you were looking to run the race better, but there's a hard thing. Not everybody who comes in saying they want to run the race better want to run the race better.
They just want to keep running the race.
Oh, man. There are some people that are addicted to losing the race. Losing the race of marriage, losing the race of jobs, losing the race of friendships.
Help me, don't help me.
Yes. Oh, man, there it is. And so there is something that a therapist has to discern. Is to say, is this person progressive? I cannot think of the therapist who was big into homework and did everything. David somebody's, I think his name, got a book, a couple of books out. But he was,
David Burns.
Yeah, David Burns was magna cum laude at doing homework. And if people didn't do homework, he'd just stand up and say, see you next week. That was it. There was no therapy. That would be $70, but no, you got to do the homework. Doesn't matter if you don't do the homework. Here's the homework. And so always holding people accountable. And I think that's another element of trust that's very powerful, is accountability.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're not willing to be held accountable, then you're not in the trust race.
Yeah.
You know, that's just, you can say all day long, that doesn't mean anything. You know, you gotta be invested. You know, you gotta lay your money down. If you do that, then we got something to talk about.
Well, and a lot of times with spouses, it's where a spouse knows their spouse's amount of openness that they're going to be acceptable to,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to tolerate. And when that doesn't meet that limit, well, then they're not going to, you know, offer the trust and reciprocate.
Mm-hmm.
And so, how do you guys suppose that we get out there and we help give these folks practical applications that they can use that really gives them the ability to maybe to open up and on both parties and meet that and accept that? Because isn't that what they want? They want to try. Maybe. Sometimes it's, you know, okay, well, we're going out there.
Doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah.
But now back to analogies again. It does not matter. This is a hard thing to grab for therapists. It does not matter how well you throw a ball to someone who does not have a mitt.
Well, and those people, like you said, that's not going to happen.
Right. And so the first thing you gotta have a therapist that's a mitt discerner.
Yeah.
You know, do you have what it takes to catch the ball? Because I'm more than willing to throw it.
But do you, if they're not?
Bye. I've told more than one person, I'm not capable of helping you.
Well,
I'm not saying you're not helpable. I'm just saying I'm not capable. I'm not for everybody, and so I've removed myself from consideration.
And Rick and I have had this conversation that when a client comes in and they don't want to relinquish a certain amount of trust and, you know, work towards their issue,
Right.
It's kind of like you're almost ready to say, well, you know, okay, it's been nice seeing you.
Well, and I had my mentor in school say, never be afraid to stand up in the middle of a session, open the door, and say, have a good day.
Yeah.
He said that sometimes is the most powerful therapy you'll ever do.
I've used that a few times.
And I think that's a great thought. You know, and more, I didn't hear this until I was older, is people who speak, who say, I can speak on everything, is probably good at nothing. But a person who says, this I can speak on, you got a better chance that that's going to be a powerful presentation.
Yeah.
So it's about getting focused on one thing, whether that's, and what we're talking about today is focusing on trust. It's getting people, if they say, we'll have trust, okay, I'm going to throw you a trust ball, are you willing to catch? We see them catching, we see them making that exchange and coming back for a higher level of difficulty. Therapeutic progress.
What do you think about changing changing the direction here a little bit, where those people that are trusting doormats, the folks that I'm talking about, basically whatever, they'll believe everything and they'll trust everything, and a lot of times they get burnout, they don't know how to set proper boundaries, and so they just go along with whatever, and they're abused emotionally, physically, a lot of different ways. We have those. We've all had those as clients. And what about those folks? How do they bulk up their trust?
Well, you know, our job is to help those that come to us better understand why they do have reactivity and why they do behavior. That's all therapeutic work is look at behaviors. What behaviors do I not like in myself? What behaviors do I want to change? and what are the skill sets, and what do I need to know in order to change behavior. That's a lot of Vern's work, is, the happiness trap and so forth, is look at behavior. So going back to these type of people is helping them better understand why they behave that way and what can be done, but also process with them and let them know what does make sense and what doesn't make sense. And, to do a little bit of CBT work on, let's rethink it this way and help them and be that guide, and then be that person that can hold them accountable for a while as they progress in the new skill sets and the new ways of doing life and behaving. Because those that are doormats, for lack of a better word, there is something that has brought them to that point. Again, you go to the countryside, and then why there's people that will argue with anybody, and they don't care, and they won't take it off anybody. So it's just take that walk with them and let them know it is okay to feel that way, or no, let's rethink it. And here are some skill sets to help you. And that's going back, we talked skill set of boundaries. That's a skill set.
Mm-hmm.
Maintaining boundaries, that's a skill set. Communication is a skill set. The ability to say no is a skill set. The ability to say no without having that person make you feel guilty is a skill set. And so it is just doing that walk with them and processing with them.
Yeah.
And as Butter says, showing them where to hit the hammer again. So I like that, yeah.
No, wait.
Where the hammer is so they can knock the guy.
No, everybody's not a nail. Everybody is not a nail.
No.
And you're the hammer.
No, we're hammering the broken.
Oh, yeah, okay.
thing.
Oh, that's a fix-it analogy.
Okay, yeah, right.
And I'm talking about a retaliatory analogy there of the hammer and the nail. There are just people in the world that are hammers looking for nails.
Yeah.
And everybody's a nail. Woo, buddy. Bad stuff.
But we got to show where to hit it.
No, we don't.
Not the nail, Roger.
No, we don't need to hit the nail.
No,
We're not in the nail business.
Would you like to get the doormat of the hammer?
Yeah. Let's progress to the fix-it analogy.
Okay, yeah, let's go.
Ready.
Now we're in the right zone. Fix it. Take the hammer and use it to fix something, to bind it, to bond it. Yes, there's a great transition right there. Certainly, I agree with it. It's great. They're like mixing metaphors here.
I think it's like a lot of different things. There's different ways to skin a cat, and we look at things as the trust level of the client that we're working with. If they have a very limited amount of trust, sometimes we try to build trust and then help them get through the situation. So what do we find is the best for these folks? How do we help them? What's the best way that you guys have seen?
The best way is the hardest way. And the hardest way is to acquire genuine empathy. I think one of the great books on that is by Brene Brown. I think she's a researcher who's researching shame, and I think she really has a handle on empathy. Mm-hmm. And I think too many people who do therapy can spell empathy, can look it up, but they don't quite, they're there but not quite there. Mm-hmm. On a scale of 1 to 10, they're about empathy 8, but to really knock it out, you got to be at an empathy 10. And people aren't willing to put in for the last 2 digits.
Yeah.
And again, the number 1 form of education is monkey education. People say monkey education. I said, yes.
I'm saying monkey education.
Monkey see?
Oh.
Monkey do. I do not say. And I think as a therapist is at a 10 of empathy, they exude that, and the client feels heard. The other person, if it's a couple or whatever, who sees that being done, will monkey education it, and then they go home and they progress back.
That's really good.
I tried.
You've been doing this for a while.
A couple of days. So even a blind squirrel finds a nut every so often. That's what I always say. I know you're thinking, Rick, it's scary. You can tell he's a big thought.
No, I'm just reflecting on some of the sessions I've had and some of the challenges that have come up. And, one is always when trust has been broken, or the one who, again, we call the offended, and this could be in any relationship again, says, well, it's been long enough, shouldn't they be over it? And the answer is no. Again, how strongly or how devoted and motivated are you to help rebuild that trust? And the second one is the forgive and forget side. People feel that forgiveness equals forgetting, when in fact it's two opposites, that you can forgive, but it's the forgetting that's going to protect you.
Yeah.
And what I mean forgetting is, again, see what your gut feeling says, and if there's been an offense there, and you see a pattern happening again, and you say, well, no, they wouldn't do that to me again, but your gut feeling says something's off, then go with gut feeling until and you have to ask them to be brave enough to say, I just got this feeling, and then do what you need to do to secure that. That's going back to the skill sets, or what do they need to express. I know we had the Find My iPhone or whatever it is on you for a while, and now you've taken it off, but I need you to turn it back on again.
Mm-hmm.
And the one who has spent it, there is no time limit. It's just until that trust is rebuilt. Because the good news is it can be rebuilt. And we have seen miraculous stories of spouses that have become stronger because they've worked through some form of broken trust.
Yeah. You mentioned the time thing, and I guess as we look at myths about trust, what do you think are myths that that we kind of accept as, well, you just wait it out and eventually it'll be okay? No, that's a myth, because if the same behavior continues, it's not going to change.
One of the greatest trust myths, if they were born in the same family as I was.
Yeah.
Or they go to the same church as I go to, or they're part of the same company, or on the same project, or we got married. That belief in instant relational trust is hurt so many people out there. It's incredible. It's incredible. You've got to, I don't care who you were born with, who to around, whatever, test it all. I don't care what job you get and who you fall in love with. Test it. Test it, test it, test it. The people, I have not seen people down the road from marriage who tested it at the very first who regret that. You say, man, that was a bad, no. They all say, boy, that was a great foundation in the solidity of our marriage. I took the time and I did the work and I dug the ditch. Woo, buddy, that will preach. That is some strong stuff there. Love it.
What about the trust thing where we think that, they loved me then, they couldn't change, I trust they still love me the same 20 years later. And,
wait a minute. If all you have to do is, if in this day and age, is take a recording of when you first got together and how you acted.
Yeah.
And then look at that film 20 years later. And if you're still doing the same thing, I'm with you. But just because I say I do the same thing does not mean I do the same thing.
Yeah.
It's easy to believe in the sameness of your attitude. No, I seldom see that. The longer people are married, the more they change.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't jump back in and make the adjustment. Trusting people jump back in, make the adjustment. And that's why I think people divorce and remarry, is because they come to a place people aren't willing to trust. or the person they're with. So they get rid of them and they go to a new one. And what's funny is they don't act the same with number two that they did with number three, or number three with number two. It's always a different stance. Mm-hmm. And if one of, the third one works, or the second one works, or the fourth one works, it's usually because the person getting married is different.
Yeah.
Just why it works. Not because they married someone different.
And I think as we talk about that, there's that old adage out there, actions speak louder than words. But I think if we also apply that to human relationships, you see people who say, I just don't feel in love with him or her anymore. I just don't think we're in love. And what happens, the actions have stopped. And so, they say they don't feel it. And it's interesting when you suggest that, well, let's just at least start acting like you're in love. Do you used to hold hands? Yeah. Did you used to, cuddle on the couch? Yeah. Then let's start acting. I bet you're going to be surprised at the feelings. And trust is the same thing. Like you said, I'm trustworthy, believe me. No, if the actions are not showing trustworthiness. So we do have to put a lot of credibility in the scriptures. Everything you notice that's positive in there was done through action. God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son. So we have to remember that if our actions don't match the words, then we're not going to be considered loving or trustworthy. But when we do have the actions that are there, that's going to be the building and rebuilding and maintaining.
Well, and working in a psychiatrist's office, what I see are folks that come in and, they've seen the doctor and he's given them, a Xanax to relieve the anxiety, or he's given them, something to, Zoloft, and their depression is lessening. And they feel like, well, everything's fine now, but they're still not going back. They trust that medication more than the fact that they want to face the real problem.
Well, let's be honest. Easier to put a pill in your mouth than to do the psychological footwork it takes. We all run to the easy.
Yeah.
And that is a trap.
So we trust a pill.
Oh.
Our problem's gone.
That's why we have an opiate addiction issue. That's why we have prescription med issues right there. That's the answer.
Absolutely.
Well, how we look on time?
I think we're at that time. Was it Mr. Rogers come in the clock, or how do you want to do? I don't.
It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood.
Well, Kim, we appreciate you joining us today. It was great.
Yeah.
Conversation.
See how much fun this is?
And of course, those that watch this post live, we still encourage you to put your comments out there. We watch them, and we'll be happy to respond. And we'll be sharing with you shortly the topic for next week. But we'll be back next Tuesday at 10 a.m. So, guys, I think that's what they call a wrap.
That's it.
That's a wrap.
Sounds good.
Enjoyed it, fellas.
Well, good to have you, man.
The professionalism, as you guys are watching me turn this off out there. We are looking for a volunteer producer, director, camera. If everyone's wondering what
shoestring operation.
Yeah, if everyone's wondering what I'm doing over here, it's trying to keep up with the comments and making sure we're on the